Welcome to another episode of The Total Connector. My name is Keyvan Davani. We have a very special guest. I'm really excited, happy to have CryptoQueen.
Hey guys.
Merry Christmas to you, CryptoQueen. Last week I saw your interview with CryptoBlood. It was exciting because you opened up, how should I put it, a couple of, can of worms.
Hey, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you think I opened up. Yeah, let's
or
talk.
Pandora's boxes. So, I'm going to let you talk because I want to know, because it goes to the root of this, of all the symptoms we have. And I know you have an economical background, and you have, I really appreciate your sharing your knowledge in the crypto community chat groups, and you're very open-minded. And I think this is what is lacking, just to make it short, in our society, is that open-mindedness and curiosity, like why, the question of why. So go ahead. Thank you so much.
The why, whys and what ifs, so excited to be here. Thank you for, opening the invitation to have more of a conversation. So I'm just really curious to see what you felt I opened up in terms of a can of worms on CryptoBlood's interview, because we talked about a lot of different things, I think we talked a little, we didn't get into a lot of conspiratorial stuff. We can if you want, I get into
fact-based. Totally fact.
Okay, fantastic.
We talked about the central banking structure. You talked about that. I want to hear your perception and understanding. How do you, what, and on top of that, what do you think what people know about the creation of money and the roots of our system?
Honestly, I think some people still don't know that we're not on a gold standard, right? I don't think people really understand how much money is being printed and created out of thin air, right? I don't think people really understand that. And if they do, or they've heard it, they don't really understand the implications of it, right? What does it mean when the central bank creates money ad litem, just whenever, whatever it needs, right? They have no idea. They start to feel pinches. I talked a little bit about it in terms of hyperinflation, products getting smaller, prices going up. That's hyperinflation. That's inflation right in front of our faces, right? That's the most basic way of seeing it. But I don't think people understand how that happens, right? Or part of how that happens. A lot of the basic economic supply and demand stuff, that's basic economic stuff. Sometimes prices will go up because of supply and demand.
Can I ask you just a short question? Do you think economical students, students or people in university are being really taught the facts, the reality of the truth about, or is it all based on Keynesianisms?
Sure. It's more Keynesian, I think. It's a lot of Keynesian, a lot of theory, and a lot of mathematics, right? I remember when I went through and got my economics degree, I did a lot of math. Love the math. It was fantastic. And, regression analysis and, lots of different types of analysis to create different scenarios in theory, right? I did do some classes where we took actual data and created different correlations between different data points, but no, I didn't find out how money was created until after I graduated, honestly, a few years ago. And I'm like, oh my God, boom, mind blown. I'm like, oh, okay.
But you
so
see,
now
this
to put
shows
the pieces together.
How compartmentalized the educational system is, and how artificially created and indoctrinated the system is. It's unbelievable, that it doesn't even, it starts much earlier, of course, but you have to teach and educate yourself. This is what's so amazing. It's like a Twilight Zone,
It's a complete Twilight Zone. The reality of what really goes on and what we're taught, complete disparity. And the whole compartmentalization, that goes in every single organization, I think, in our planet. And I think that's done on purpose. The whole need to know, people up here and people down here, unless you want to know. And that's kind of something I said on CryptoBloods. My kids are making a bunch of noise. I apologize.
No problem.
What I said on CryptoBlood is, unless you want to know, you're not going to want to know. You don't find out.
Yeah.
You have to go and dig. And sometimes you get into conspiratorial stuff, but then you start looking into the conspiracies that are conspiracy fact, right? The creation of money, who controls the central banks? How did they come into existence? How did they become so powerful? How are they connected and interconnected with the IMF, the intermonetary system, the SWIFT system, all of that, right? You're not taught that. I wasn't taught that. I mean, I had to figure that stuff out. And that's where, you like you said, you open up a can of worms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that an institution, I don't know what I would call it, institution, organization, a centralized structure such as the Bank for International Settlements is able or has been able to to stay off the spotlight for such a long time since, Hitler's Nazi Germany, and it's comprised and owned and controlled by the most powerful central and private banks.
Oh yeah.
But their decisions, with all the agents, technicians, and puppets and frontmen who execute their decisions, and they're totally immune. First of all, they get a totally tax-free income, all of them, the members. They live in a state of Switzerland. They are totally immune and legally and politically absolutely unaccountable and untouchable. How is that possible? I've been asking myself.
I don't know how it's possible other than they created their own trusts. They created and work within the laws that are established. And if you pay attention to, again, like I mentioned this on the Crypto Blood interview, pay attention, right? You start looking at the laws that are passed, executive orders passed. And again, nobody pays attention to that stuff. Nobody reads it. Nobody goes in and says, what exactly does this omnibus bill that was passed in 2017 cover? Like, for example, right? You go in and you start reading it, you're like, very, very interesting. Same thing. It's like there are structures out there to protect yourself, to protect your cryptos, to protect your assets and all of that based on certain trusts and laws that are established. They're not working outside of the law, most of them. Granted, there's a huge, criminal element that works beyond that. But the way a lot of the financial structure is set up for a lot of people at that level is within trusts. And the way it's set up, where you create a trust for profit and gains that is tax deferred. How do you think they get so rich? They're not paying taxes. The rest of us are, right? And then they have their enforcement arm, like here in the United States, they have the IRS, which many people argue and have gone to jail over, saying, oh, there is no law that says that you can collect taxes. Yes and no. At the end of the day, the way they have structured things is so that we pay taxes, they do not. And they continue to pass on their assets. And I forget who it was who said, you create a trust where you control everything and you own nothing. So that even if people come after you, and you're a legal scholar, so they come after you legally, they try to sue you for something, well, you don't own anything. What can they get you for? You know what I mean? So then they continue to grow. Their wealth continues to expand. And it goes on and on and on for centuries. And then we get to the point we're at now where most of us, down here at this little level, we start to wake up from our stupor and we're like, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. This doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? The inflationary factor, going back to inflation, you work, and it seems like you make less. Like every single year you make less. Your money goes.
People take it for granted. That's the thing. It's like they have been accustomed, conditioned, like something normal, but they don't understand. It's like a systematic expropriation, a stealing. But I've been trying to find a description. What is, I can't even put it into words because there is no description of a criminal offense that these whatever entity structures that are responsible for such a social, economical, financial, technological mayhem that they've been, causing. There isn't even a word for that because it's so systemic. It's so inherently beyond criminality that.
Oh, it's beyond.
But I think people, you gotta, I think, I've been trying to research this now. I've been, writing and researching now, and I've got like 25 pages about, based on Austrian economics in connection with the central banking structure. And like, what is, there isn't even a description for that, what they're doing, because it's sort of in a gray zone. You know, the legality has become legalized.
Yeah, no, legality has become legalized. Again, they create the laws that go into effect by which they benefit. Obviously, you know, we see it. You know, again, if we're paying attention, we see it. We see these people's wealth continue to grow where ours diminishes. Our wealth diminishes. Our time diminishes. We have to work more and more hours to make the same amount of money. And again, it comes down to wages and assets and all of that stuff. They have the ability to create more assets. And that's what we want. We, even our wages, if you want to really argue about it, can almost be, it's based on debt. So you can never really get ahead if you have wages as the only way to try and increase your status in life. You have to create assets. But most people don't have the ability to do that because they can't trade enough time to create enough assets, right? Or they make the wrong choices based on a lack of education and information that they have available or that they even look for. But again, you know, it's just been, it seems like a complete and utter systematic dumbing down. I think even worldwide, I don't know, you can tell me more about European education. Where again, everything is so compartmentalized that you can't connect the dots, right?
Yeah.
You study civics over here, but you have no idea how it connects over here to legal and practical purposes. You study, you know, economics over here, but you have no idea how to actually implement it in practicality or how it works in the central banking system or how to create assets, anything like that. You're not taught any of that stuff. You have to learn it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see. Well, I was going to say something before. You know, we've been both, I think, very deep in the rabbit's hole, or you know, a lot of us.
Oh yeah, lots of rabbits,
you know,
and lots of holes.
Exactly. But you know, I was saying, it's, you know, we don't have to deal constantly with the reality, with the facts, with what is going on. But we need to go at least once into that rabbit hole, understand it, get out of it, and
get out of it.
Now, you know, let's talk about the solution. The solution is,
let's talk about some solutions.
Even if it's not, I mean, when the Austrian economists in their books, I've been researching and reading so much stuff now about 100% sort of reserve requirement plus a gold standard. But that is so unrealistic that we're going back there. So we have now Bitcoin that goes even beyond the wildest dream of any Austrian economist, that is totally decentralized, totally and absolutely scarce, with a secret sauce of difficulty adjustment.
Right.
And there's an article. Let me just pull this up for us. You see this actually? No. Do you have it? Let me see. Let me see. The other one. Sorry, the one I sent you previously.
Is that the one that you sent yesterday?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I've got it up here on mine.
Oh, there you go. I got it. Yeah.
You got it. Okay.
You see, what's interesting is that this Mr. Alex Gurevich of former JP Morgan head, I mean, he says things, but then he actually gives you the answer. But it's a very beautiful article by Safedan Ammous, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, and another author whom I don't know. He says, blah, blah, blah. When Bitcoin first started trading, I was mostly unaware and fairly agnostic of its value.
Right.
As a trader, I became interested in its vertical rise in 2013, which was followed by a bear market in 2014. Notably, its drop found support. It didn't continue to fall to permanent obscurity below the event horizon. Instead, it stabilized, put a solid double bottom in 2015, and started to creep up. This trading pattern is consistent with precious metal behavior, only compressed to a shorter horizon. For example, the slow consolidation in gold after the spike of 1980. So this quote by itself is so fundamentally important because, as commented then by the authors, they say even if there's more demand, Bitcoin does not just out of a thin air of increase the supply. It doesn't react to that demand. And therefore it behaves similar to precious metals, as Gurevich observes, but actually it goes even beyond gold, because gold has a sort of a growing rate of approximately between 2 and 5% per year. So gold is relative scarce, Bitcoin is absolutely scarce. And I wish everybody could just understand that very essence of Bitcoin.
If they could understand the very essence of Bitcoin, we would totally start to transform our financial system, completely start to transform it. And because of its scarcity, because of its ability, inability for most people to be able to acquire it, understand it, use it, safeguard it, is part of why I think it has not become more fully adopted. That, and I think there is a good amount of market manipulation, dampening down the popularity. Again, we talked with Crypto Blood about it a year ago, right? We were in the highs, everything was going amazing. Bitcoin had hit 20,000, dropped back down, and of course in January started to decline. However, everybody and their mother was talking about Bitcoin, right? And we know that a lot of people got in at the highs, right? And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, I just feel so bad. I feel so bad for that. Oh, that's just bad. And, but it created so much awareness about it and created so much buzz. And I think that's part of what the dampening effect is. I don't think they're ready to convert over to this new fully electronic system. It's not ready yet. But if we ourselves, as a society, as a people, we're able to get just even a little bit of Bitcoin and create that as our little gold pile, you know what I mean? It would make a big difference in many, many families' lives in the future.
Yeah, even if it's not used, and we are far away from mass adoption as a transactional, but if every human being at least, had the opportunity or, at least some kind of access,
the interest,
a fraction of a Bitcoin,
fraction.
Some kind of Satoshi. I mean, we're talking about 21 million Bitcoins in totality until the year 2040. 2140.
Yeah.
Yeah. And conservatively speaking, I think approximately 3 to 4 million, I'm not sure the number, 3 to 4 million coins have been lost. Whatever wallets lost, or people lost the private keys. So what? We got
about 16, 17 million. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Medium exchange, store of value, a unit of account, so divisible, totally fungible. One Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshis. If everybody of those 7.5 or whatever, 8 billion people on this earth would have just as a store of value, just holding on to it. Can you imagine?
I can't imagine.
Just decentralize, diffuse, and eroot this totally rotten centralized system like that.
We would. However, these people are completely and utterly, completely experts in co-opting, right? They do it all the time. So I think that those of us who are early adopters, I think will be winning out. However, the central banks, the whole entire monetary system will be either creating their own blockchain, cryptocurrency, whatever they're going to do, right? That's what they do, and moving into that system. However, like I've said, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It is the foundational system of our cryptocurrency system. And I'm calling it that because I think that is going to be our new financial system. Is going to be blockchain. What that coin is, that's going to be the transactional one that we use in our everyday lives, I don't know yet. But I do believe that Bitcoin is going to be the foundational structure of the new system.
You said it very well. The foundational structure. It needs a rooted system, a rooted base from which everything grows, because it will deroot that system by itself. Because even if they, whatever want to do, create their own, I don't know, I don't know what to call it.
The next iteration of our monetary slavery. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. And let me pull this up because people love this quote by this guy. That Blockstream who have developed this satellite system, or they're just evolving into it. Dr. Adam Beck, the CEO of Blockstream, and there's beautiful quote out of that article. Who needs Verizon, Blockstream, broadcast, entire blockchain, blah, blah, blah. And he says, in a rural area or village where internet is relatively expensive, said Beck, it is a lower cost way to get connected to the Bitcoin network and participate in the Bitcoin economy. People love that quote, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, we're far away, and the user-friendliness, we're far from user-friendliness. This is what's missing, I think, in this space, is
Yeah.
How do they expect, you know, people, the average person who has, first of all, no technical background and expertise or interest, no time, they have to work 8 to 10, 12 hours a day. They need something, you know, like the internet. Get on the internet, you know, everybody knows how to open up a browser. This is what's missing.
I think that's what's missing, but one key point too is going to be our phones, right? You know, I'm doing our interview right now on our phone, but more and more people throughout the world have cell phones. And I think eventually everyone on the planet is going to have a cell phone, right? These little teeny tiny computers in our hands handle so much computing power. I do so much, you know, crypto research, reading, all of that stuff on my cell phone. It's crazy. If someone can operate a cell phone, it's going to get to the point where it's going to be that easy to buy, sell, trade, and transact in blockchain technology just by our phones. I think that's where it's going to be, is on our...
That's called censorship resistance, total censorship resistance, right?
What happened?
Who is that?
Go. I lost you there.
Oh,
I don't know. I lost you.
Oh,
there you are.
There you are.
Okay. It's going to be through our phones. The blockchain technology and what was it? Last year, several companies were talking about blockchain and cell phone technologies. I think one of them, what was it? Stellar? Isn't it Stellar? Yeah, Stellar was doing a contract with IBM, I believe, if I remember correctly. You know, with IBM and that computing power. And then someone else was working on blockchain technologies to be used with cell phones. It's there, and I'm sure, you know, people, you know, whoever's listening to our broadcast here can just fact check us. I know it's there, and they can list the technologies that are already coming into the space, integrating cellular technology with, you know, blockchain.
And you know, exactly, and you know, the internet is like, okay, I mean, I cannot imagine that the internet could be, because it's too late, I think. It's too late to censor it in a way or to filter it. I mean, I mean, as a worst case scenario, you know, going back to the satellite connection thing, what if you're totally independent of the internet then? Then it's all about, you know, you can even, I don't know, I'm not a technician, but then route it via radio signals and, you know, with the exponential rate of technological development, evolution. You got your cell phone, your mobile, you got the satellite connection. There you go. I mean, what else is needed to you know, to make it totally censorship resistant and decentralized and private, maybe?
Profit's a big one. You know, I don't know if you heard, but even this week we were down here in the United States, and several big areas of cellular and Wi-Fi was down. You know, so definitely need to have a backup system, either through radio, through something else, in order to keep things going. Because that's the first thing I thought, because I was down cellular data, got a good 3 hours, and then Wi-Fi data was down about the same. And then there were intermittent on, off in terms of accessibility. So that was my only big concern, was like, I'm like, well, interesting. You know, what are we going to do in order
like electromagnetic pulses, or is it the weather, or what just technical problems?
They said it was just technical problems. There was a big explosion of some transformers in New York. They said it wasn't an explosion. They said there was arcing. So there were some electrical issues throughout the United States the last few days. But this was far-reaching. This was CenturyLink was down in several states here on the western side of the United States where I live. And it was off and on intermittently throughout the entire United States, which I thought was very odd, right? Yeah. But it was crippling. If you think about it, if you're in the height of trading and everything, and you are not able to transact for several hours, that's a bit of a problem, especially if you have, you know, major business to get accomplished. Granted, we're during the holidays, things were quiet here. It's not like I needed to do some major things. But yeah, there was some stuff going on. I don't know what's going on. Honestly, we'll hear more conspiracies, I'm sure, in the next few days of what might be happening going down. But we did have some severe weather in several parts of the United States the last few days, including here in Albuquerque, where I live. And I don't know. We'll see. We definitely need to have a backup system for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty positive. I think the rate of exponential development in this space, what I'm a little bit, I don't know, maybe there needs to be more bundling together of intelligence and resources and creativity and expertise, but people are they are doing some, but it's just a little bit maybe dislocated from one another. There's so many great minds and geniuses out there. And people working, the community working towards it. Well, where do you see us? I mean, where? What would you tell viewers? Beginning with Bitcoin, where do you see us in the next?
In the next few years?
Yeah,
I think it will become a lot more. Again, like I mentioned to Crypto Blood, I think we are still very heavily in the experimental, the research development phase. Mm-hmm. We are creating technologies, different companies are creating technologies to move forward and scale in the future. But I think, it's been kind of quiet, honestly, in the blockchain technology. There hasn't been a lot of communication from a lot of the big players in terms of what's going on with their projects. Things have been a little quiet. And I think that also dampens down the enthusiasm for cryptocurrency, other than us, who are hardcore, fans. Other than that, you're not going to get the mass adoption being quiet. However, being quiet doesn't mean nothing is happening. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very curious to see what companies come up with in 2019. Well, I'm curious to see if we don't repeat a similar pattern like we're talking about of 2014, where we have a bear market. Mainly, 2018 was a bear market for Bitcoin and all cryptocurrency for the most part, if you want to say it that way. We're going into almost a year now of bear market trends. And that took, in 2014, it took a good year of that. And then, like the article stated, 2015 created a double bottom where it finally started to get some legs and started to move up. And again, it didn't go down below the level of initiation. It continued to go up. And I think that's what we're seeing here as far as a trend. Mm-hmm. I don't think Bitcoin's going anywhere. I mean, there's people out there like, oh my God, doom and gloom. It's going to evaporate to nothing. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Every time they say that, Bitcoin surprises everybody and kicks everybody in the pants and just says, basically throws them the middle finger and says, no, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And every time something happens, they talk about micro bubbles, bubbles, and all these
all the time.
So many obituaries,
Yeah.
Pseudo.
So many. I think it's obituaries. I don't know why. I mean, seriously, do people think, if you think about it in a logical sense, we're already mainly electronic, right? And if we're going to be going off planet, President Trump talks about his Space Force, blah, 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 blah. You think those guys are going to be carrying around bags of gold and silver? I mean, seriously, it's too much weight. Even just by itself, it's too much weight, right? And if you want to be efficiently and get off the ground, and in any type of, aeronautical vehicle, weight matters, right? So how are you going to do this efficiently? Electronic.
Exactly.
It's gonna go to that, right? So people can kick and scream and blah, 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 blah. I think there are going to be, some growing pains, as any transition does and has, and like I said, it's always smart to have some gold and silver. It's always good to be diversified. You don't want to have
risk diversification, risk minimization. Yeah,
absolutely. You must minimize risk, and you've got to, like on that, that upside down pyramid that we were talking about in terms of liquidity and risk and return, you have to diversify within that, because you need to be able to have some things that are liquid, some things that are illiquid. You've got to manage that risk and benefit for sure. And that's anybody. And people say, well, I don't have any money, blah, 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 blah. Well, you got to start somewhere. You've got to start somewhere, even if it's tiny amounts a week that you can set aside for Bitcoin, gold, silver, doesn't matter. Just start is really all I have to say. And right now, and I'm sure you'll agree, Keyvan, now's a great time to buy. Holy cow. We've had a 90% retracement.
Yeah. I mean, even though I think temporarily it will go much lower. That's my,
Yeah.
personal analysis. It could
Yes.
even go
Yeah.
for a short time, for a very short time, maybe even to whatever, 2,500 euros, I call it, or maybe even
Hmm.
1,500. Who knows? It doesn't matter. Don't look at the numbers, right?
It doesn't matter.
People looking at the
Yeah. It
numbers.
doesn't matter. Yeah. I don't think that it'll get that low,
Mhm.
but hey, Bitcoin has surprised us up and down. So who knows, right? Who knows? But I don't think that we're going to retrace that low. It will get its legs again. It will double bottom again and start to get the next layer of foundation from which it will grow. Um, Up until then, there's opportunity. It's opportunities where you make it, where you look for it, and how much effort you want to put into it.
Beautiful. One last point. You mentioned that
Sure.
word pain, pain,
Which one?
uh,
Pain?
pain, or
Yeah.
suffering. Do you think
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pain point? I don't think the critical pain point of people. Maybe I don't know. Maybe people are just too busy, too stressed out, maybe too comfortable, or maybe most people in the Western world, at least, they still feel comfortable. I think too comfortable. I think that critical juncture, or that whatever call it, tipping point,
The
has
tipping point.
to, because you mentioned that word desire in Crypto's Blood interview. What do people desire? And as long as I think that emotional, psychological, I don't know, existential pain point is not
Mm-mm.
felt, they're not going to do that step, right? How do you see that? How do you know
No, totally agree with you. Again, back to that article because I really enjoyed it. Thank you for sending it. They talked about where you don't start to think about it until there is a major crisis at hand, right? There towards the bottom, he talks about the consumer behavior after a crisis. It isn't until after a crisis when you start to think and go inside existentially and say, okay, maybe what I didn't give me the results that I wanted, or maybe I wasn't as well prepared as I could have been, or maybe this last crisis really bit me in the butt more than I would like to deal with, or would like, or that I like, and so people will start to look at and say, in spite of their anxiety, they're going to start to look at more concrete ways to, again, create some sort of assets for themselves and some sort of security. And what do people do and have done forever is go to gold. But if gold is not as liquid as, say, Bitcoin is, you're going to see people go back into Bitcoin. We saw it, right? We had a bit of a uncertainty in the economic markets last year, going after 2016, going into 2017, and you saw a huge surge into cryptocurrencies because of that uncertainty. We're going to see it all over again. It just, human behavior will continue to repeat itself.
it's
And
the normal
unfortunately,
cycles,
all
right?
over. Yeah. It's like this
It's
circle of life, it seems like. Yeah. And that's anyone.
yeah,
I think we're all, we see it in the animal kingdom, and I think we see it in humanity as well, that you only put out the amount of effort necessary to accomplish your immediate goals.
yeah,
And I think that if people are comfortable right now, they're not going to expend a lot of effort to do
yeah,
a lot of nothing, right?
yeah,
But that you're going to get to the point of critical mass where you must do something, and the debt system cannot continue. It just can't, and several analysts are saying that this Christmas season, people must have overspent or something, because all the retail people are saying that they've had one of the best Christmas seasons in a really long time. But then on the flip side, you're hearing the debt market people, the credit card people saying that a lot of people took on a lot of debt. So something's got to give here, right? Because especially as central banks continue to raise interest rates, the payment of that debt becomes more and more difficult to pay back. And
yeah,
again, back to that pyramid, if it becomes too heavy at the top, it will collapse. It
yeah,
comes down, you know what I mean? It will come down. And again, people start to come out of their financial stupor and figure out, okay, what do I need to do now?
yeah.
I say, don't wait to that point. Start planning now and get to a better footing, in the future. And as you go on, a little bit at a time, we're going to make a transition. Whether it be easy, whether it be hard, we don't know for sure. But in any financial crisis, whether it was the Great Depression, whether it was the savings and loans in the 80s, whether it was the 28 crash, there was some pain. major pain
Yeah,
that was felt by many people. And
exactly.
you know what I mean? It's gonna happen. And
Yeah,
so again, shelter, shelter, shelter as much as you can, diversify as much as you can, and do the best that you can, but don't do nothing.
yeah.
That's all I can say.
Beautiful said. You know, I'm very positive. I just think it's also in our human nature
Yeah,
that
me too.
once things become really difficult and painful and stressful and you know suffering like, and people have
Mhm.
to deal with things, they become creative. Also, this is
Oh,
also
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
the evolution
Very
of
creative.
civilization. You know,
Because
so
you have to. Yeah, you
exactly.
have to. Yeah, again, it comes back to that whole doing the minimum effort to get the amount of maximum return. That's just foundational to humanity, and I think that's just foundational to the entire animal kingdom here on this planet. Is just do the minimum to get what you need. And you're right, Kevin. Until there's some major pain, I don't think we're going to see a lot of change in behavior.
Yeah. I'm just, wishing and hoping that there's a process of, I want to call it mass education. People really, I mean, we are doing already in the crypto community. We are sharing knowledge. We are sharing comprehension, facts, and
Sure.
why, the reason why. And to understand, we need first to understand the why before, we talk, I think, about Bitcoin.
Sure. Sure.
It's yeah, and I'm just hoping and desiring and really wishing that we evolve into this, this exponential rate of understanding, of comprehension, because this is
I
really
don't know
hard.
if it's going to happen, honestly, because again, the educational system throughout the entire planet, I know there's pockets that are really good throughout the world, but it's not mass. It's not mass adoption type of education system where you're going to be able to, let people know. I think it's just going to be like, oh, here you go. Here's a Trezor, for example. Here's some Bitcoin on it, or whatever money you had in the bank. It is now in Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency of choice that we have, moved into and evolved into. And this is how you use it. I think that's how it's going to happen for the mass adoption. Those of us who are early adopters, I think we already get that. And we're going to be the ones, I think, in the future who will be educating the masses and helping them how to use their own money. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I don't think it's going to happen unless we get a huge transition like that and we are forced to. Nothing seems to happen organically, unfortunately, in terms of mass change. It
mm,
happens because you are forced to do it and you
yeah.
must actively going forward.
Well said. Thank you so much.
So I don't know if that was any helpful. This was a really fun, really great conversation.
No, it's really
Um,
important that we share and talk about this open-mindedly, and it needs to be just articulated things. I think people are
yeah,
are still in their, I don't know where they are, but it's hard to open up sometimes to people because we experience this. Also, my girlfriend and I, we experienced this. Oh my God, it's like so much mainstream. It's so much
so
mainstream
much.
indoctrination. Whether it comes from the education or the media
Yeah,
or families, it's unbelievable. It's like parallel
it is.
universe. You know,
It's complete parallel universe. I don't get any of my news from mainstream media other than snippets, right? I like never watch TV. I mean, there's a couple of shows that we record or whatever and we listen and watch a little bit later. But when I have conversations with some people, sometimes I'm just sitting there with wide-eyed and I'm like, wow, okay, do I really, is what I start to even question myself. It's like, okay, what I know, is that true? Is that right? Is that, yes, it is. Keep going. You know what I mean? And I start digging a little bit more, to get my own confirmation bias or to, dispel my own cognitive dissonance. If there is something new that's
yeah,
introduced to me that I'm like, maybe I hadn't thought of it that way. But I am a curious person. I do a lot of
yeah.
reading. I do
That's
a lot of,
yeah, yeah,
have a lot of intellectual curiosity. But yeah, a lot of times I am the center of attention, and I don't like to be the center of attention at a lot of parties or around different people. Because they're like, oh my God, you are so informed. You know so much of what's going on. You should do this. You should do that. And blah, blah. And I'm like, I just read.
yeah, yeah.
I
Exactly.
read. I
Yeah,
listen to a lot of YouTube.
yeah.
I listen to lots of different people.
And you're
I'm
you
curious.
reflect, that's a learning process.
I
Everybody has
reflect.
their own level of
Yeah.
understanding. And
Yeah.
it's not our job, of course, to save the world or convince people. It's like here
No.
you got the facts, here you got, because it's so much, it consumes so much energy. It's like trying to talk to these people.
Yes.
I'm like, where should I start? Where do I pick them up?
Yeah. I just refer them to different sources and say, okay, go read this, go watch that, try this, try that. These are where I get a lot of my information. Granted, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
I can't bring someone up to speed, especially who, and not to be arrogant or anything, but my experiences are different than other people's. And if you're not at a certain level, it's hard to get someone there unless they are really working hard to get there themselves.
Yeah.
And so all I do is refer them to different sources, refer them to different things. I'm like, hey, this person has a really good foundational financial course on ideas that you might want to reflect and read upon. And I'm hoping that will spark an intellectual curiosity in a lot of people, that they'll start to dig on their own.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing better than figuring it out on your own, because that's what solidifies it in your own mind. Someone can tell you and can give you all the answers to the universe. But if it doesn't make sense to you and you don't understand or fill in the gaps along the way, it's just not going to get embedded into your mind so that you take action.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not our job to intervene. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure talking to you, because, you have really a lot of a spectrum of knowledge. And I wish that more people would just come forward and just, just share their knowledge. It's so important. And I know, we both know we got to have a lot of empathy with our, human beings around us, because it's overwhelming, I think, because
I think we just overwhelm them. Many times, some of the things I say, the look on their faces, they're like, wow, I'm leaving now, because they think because they just think I'm so out there sometimes. And so I'm like, okay, let's just taper it back in. Or I just don't say anything. You know what I mean? I just sit there and I listen. And, especially if they're completely way off base, I just kind of start to say, well, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about this? Or have you thought about why that might be? Or have you thought about how did we get here? You know what I mean? And what else might be going on behind the scenes that perhaps is leading to what we are seeing today? Just asking a lot of questions. And many times people, honestly, Keyvan, they don't want to know. They don't want to know. Yeah.
And they will come eventually after a year or two. You notice that, right? People after they say, "What happened in the meantime?" Something must have happened.
What's going on? What's going on now? And blah 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 blah. And I have people. Yeah. We're planting seeds, I think, and I think you do the same thing. You plant seeds, and then eventually they do sprout under the right conditions, right? Will there be extreme or not? Under the right condition, the plant will bloom. Yeah.
Yeah. No, beautiful
So
conclusion. Beautiful conclusion, Marie.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time and for your sharing.
Likewise.
Yeah. Do you want to share anything? I mean, where people can find you? I know you have an interesting, job also.
Yeah.
But just if you want.
I have a lot of interest. Like I say, I have a lot of intellectual curiosity. One of the biggest things that I'm into right now is the whole wellness aspect of health and prevention.
Wow.
And so people can find me.
So important.
Oh my God, it's so important, right? We can have a whole other conversation about prevention and better nutrition and things that, you can do to better yourself, right? Again, a lot of people don't want to know about that until there's a problem. I'm like, oh, good God.
The symptoms.
Do something beforehand so that you don't have problems. Or if you do have a problem, it's less severe, it's easier to handle. But oh my God, that's a whole other conversation. Same thing, same human nature, same stuff that you're dealing with, right? Because I've got family members who know that I'm a certified health coach, who know that I do keto coaching, supplements coaching, all of that stuff. Nope. And they're in and out of the hospital, in and out of doctor's offices. And I'm just like, good God. Okay. But again, unless
a family is like I think.
Oh my God, they're the worst sometimes, right? Love them to death, but oh my God, they're the worst. But anyway, people can find me at 3x. That's 3xwellness.com. They can also find me on Twitter on my crypto page at NM. That's New Mexico NM CryptoQueen. And on Twitter, I also have a wellness Twitter, but I'm changing that up a little bit so people can follow me on the website at 3X Wellness to find more information and to, you know, sign up for a one-on-one coaching as well, you know, just to evaluate a situation and see what I would recommend. It's not medical advice.
Excellent.
It is just coaching, right? Exactly. And you can take it, leave it, do what you want, take it to your doctor and decide your own plan, but it's just a lot of information I've acquired in more than 20 years. Trial and error, you know, I've gone to several different conferences on health and wellness. And so that's the biggest thing that I'm into right now when cryptos are quiet, right? So when cryptos are hot and hopping, well, we move our interest over there.
Very intelligent. Good strategy. No, I love it.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway.
Marie,
all right, Keyvan,
thank you so much.
you.
Yeah. I wish you a really a beautiful start into the new year. It's going to be exciting year 2019.
I think so too.
Hope to have you soon, you know, maybe on a very special topic
Sure.
next time, whenever you have free time and space and energy.
and energy. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let's
Exactly.
just talk and we'll figure out what you want to do. But likewise, have a wonderful 2019. I think we're going to have a good year, but we'll see, right? Cross our fingers.
I feel it in my bones. Thank you so much. All right, Marie.
Thank you. Bye, Keyvan. Have a great day. Bye. Ciao.
All right, that was very enlightening talk with CryptoQueen, Marie, and yeah, if you want to get more information and dive into the knowledge, the sources, you got her her social media contacts and her information sources. Let me just pull up also again a couple of articles that I wrote. It's on medium.com at Keyvan Davani. Wrote 2 articles. There's another article which I'm gonna hopefully be published by the Mises Institute, but if not, I'm gonna just publish it myself. And there's a work that I've been working on for quite some time now. It's amongst other things on the legal perspective in connection with Bitcoin, Austrian economics, central banking structures, bank for international settlements, and the fiat money fractional reserve banking system. All right, that's about it. You can find me also on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and yeah. So thank you so much for your interest, for your attention. And I'll see you soon again next year, 2019. Wish you a wonderful start into the year, exciting year 2019. Wish you health, joy, pleasure, and evolution. Yeah, in all in all dimensions and levels that we can think of. Thank you so much. My name is Keyvan Davani. It's all about total crypto, total blockchain, total freedom, total decentralization, the total connector. Bye-bye.